Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to review the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. It was called Room for Growth. As the episode begins, we see that the ensigns are debating whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that they're all cramped up in tight quarters. There seem to be advantages and disadvantages to both. And we also see that Captain Freeman has somehow come across one of those crazy masks from Masks, the weird seventh season TNG episode, and that she's wreaking havoc on the ship, changing the structure of it, from its normal structure to like weird temples and viney areas and stuff. And Mariner notes that it's like the third time this kind of thing has happened. The engineering crew is, of course, now pulling double and triple shifts and whatnot to undo all the changes that she made while under the influence of the mask, necessitating that they take some R&R because they're burnt out, which the captain arranges for them. When Tendi has to chase a little friend of hers that she apparently made in a lab when it escapes, she comes across some other ensigns, the Delta Shift, as they plot to mess with the ship's computer in order to cause a ship-wide cabin lottery to pick them. So there's a lottery going on wherein some cabin space is going to be handed out to whoever wins the lottery because of a vacancy. And they want to make sure that it's them, so they're going to interfere with the process. And Tendi discovers this. The captain joins the engineering team on the relaxation deployment, which is taking place at a facility, I guess, called the Dove, which is kind of interesting because it kind of brings up that whole episode where Captain Kirk goes to a place and kind of undergoes a procedure, and the logo of the place has a dove on it. I don't know if that's intentional or whatever. Anyway, there's that. The ensigns enter the holodeck as part of their plan to maneuver around the other ensigns who are trying to get to a particular computer console to do their dirty deed. And they find themselves in the middle of a simulation being run by the Doctor and Shax, who are apparently dating, that resembles a Dixon Hill adventure from The Next Generation. But for some reason, it's all in black and white, including the ensigns, and which is weird. Anyway, it takes place in a bank, which prompts Mariner to make a joke about how money is passe. It was kind of funny. But after using a conduit out of the holodeck to another part of the ship, the ensigns find themselves in a swamp area on the ship, which is there for the purpose of supporting, I guess, the hydroponics garden or something. And before they were able to exit that room into the next, they end up breathing in some toxic fumes that cause BOIMLER and Mariner to hallucinate while Tendi is immune because she's Orion, and it was kind of funny. On the relaxation deployment, the engineers cannot help themselves and just continue doing engineering stuff even during relaxation exercises. Like they keep seeing problems that need to be solved or adjustments that can be made, and they keep doing engineering stuff. Sometimes they're trying to do it on the sly so the captain doesn't yell at them for not relaxing, and they always get caught. It was pretty funny. Back to the ensigns, we find themselves in a room with super low gravity on the ship, and while they're fooling around, the ship needs to engage the deflector to fend off some asteroids that are approaching, and it causes that room to act all wonky, and it almost crushes BOIMLER until Mariner and Tendi rescue him, which they had to disrobe to do because they needed like a rope, so it was kind of funny. When the captain figures out that the engineering crew has been actively trying not to relax and continuing to do like engineering stuff, she freaks out and causes the person running the relaxation place to say that she needs immediate treatment, and that if she doesn't respond to the immediate treatment, she'll have to be sent to Earth for full medical workup, which causes the engineers to decide to show the captain that they can, in fact, relax the way she wants them to get her to calm down in the hopes that it will chill her out and she won't have to be sent off to Earth. The ensigns eventually run into the other ensigns from Delta Shift, and after a bit of bristling at each other, they seem to realize that they like each other, but then the other ensigns trick them and move into the next room through a door that's on a time lock without allowing our heroes to follow along, leaving them to have to sit and wait for the door to open again. Meanwhile, the engineering crew builds a machine out of equipment at the relaxation facility, which removes all the captain's stress in 10 seconds. And because solving a particular problem always seems to make them happy, the engineering crew is also very relaxed, and it's a successful relaxation venture, which is good because the captain doesn't need to be sent away, and the engineering crew is a little bit less stressed now, which is important. The ensigns find another way out of the room that they were locked in and they're able to access the terminal that they're trying to access before the other ensigns. But they realize that there aren't actually 4 rooms available as they thought. There's only 1 room. So they decide to give it to the other ensigns, because to give it to one of them would break up their friend group. And they don't want to do that. And they'd rather see the other friend group have to break up. So they decide to leave the console alone and let the other group of ensigns get to it. But it turns out that it didn't break up the other group's friendship, because they just put 4 beds in the room, which, disappoints our ensigns. And that was funny. I thought this was a good episode. It didn't have that tired plot that they seem to do almost every week, where one of the ensigns goes on a rotation and kind of fails at it until they succeeds. I was mentioning last week how they had used it again in last week's episode, and it kind of bugged me because it's old hat, but they didn't do that this time. They did something completely different. And, I thought it was a good friendship episode that demonstrated how these, 4 ensigns really are a good friend group, and how they value each other and how they value the relationship between all of them, and how they can even put that above other things, which is cool. And, it managed to also be funny at the same time. So, I liked it. It was a good sort of mid-season episode. But that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. But before I go, I want to remind you about my Teespring store. I have t-shirts and other merch there with the channel logo on it, as well as other designs that you can get to help support the channel. The link, of course, is in the description. But yeah, I'll be back with a review of the next episode of Star Trek Lower Decks once it's released. Until I return with that review, I wish you peace and long life.